All right, week number 3 of the 30-day social confidence challenge. And we're coming up near the end of it. The last week's going to be pretty intense. So in this call, I'm just going to cover a few things. One is I got to praise some people for some of the things I've done and want to sort of validate and encourage other people to do similar things. Reminder of how to stay up to date with the 30-day challenge, where to go, how to post, how to score your points, all of that stuff. I'm going to have a look at the biggest barrier that I see coming up for people that's going to stop them making progress with their social confidence that I've seen come up in this challenge. I'm going to talk a little bit about the formula that's starting to emerge here, the formula of how you go from zero to abundant when it comes to your social life. Talk a little bit about the last week, what's coming up, and some of the big opportunities to score lots of points if you're into the competitive side of things. And then, of course, our next challenge, which is going to be a whopper. Okay. So, and then if anybody live on the call, or one of you, has any questions or anything you want to cover, we'll tackle that as well. Okay. All right. So first off, there's a few things I want to praise that I've seen some people do that I know from experience are really valuable. First off, one thing I've seen Jason doing is repetition. So as I've mentioned before, a lot of these activities in the challenge are just these one-offs because we're doing a 30-day challenge. But these activities are actually designed to be repeated over and over again. These are your reps, a lot of these. And that it's in the reps that you actually get the real gains, just like working out. So doing one of these things once might be a courage challenge for you and develop your bravery, which is great. But if you actually want to develop a social life, you've got to do these things a lot. Okay. A lot of these, if you choose sort of 4 or 5 of them that are really relevant to you and you repeat them on a weekly basis, that's when you're going to start seeing something happen. All right. So it's really important that you just don't do a one hit and wonder and sort of hope that doing it once will solve all your issues. It's much more like investing. You just got to keep doing it, repeating it over and over. I also want to praise Dana for something that's very important as well, which is bouncing back from setbacks. She tried to organize some events and they were difficult to organize and kind of fell through. And so she went and kept going and tried to organize different ones. Your ability to adapt to life not going your way when it comes to socializing is such a critical skill because that's going to happen all the time. All right. Your fantasy about how this is going to work versus how it actually plays out in real life is going to be vastly different. And there's going to be a lot of things that just don't go the way you wanted them to, fall apart. I mean, socializing literally is cooperative. You're working with other people, which means other people can let you down, other people can be difficult, misunderstandings can happen. You want to go join a group, it's up to somebody else to make that group happen. If they suddenly quit, then the group disappears. So you've got a lot of sort of dependency on how other people behave. And you need to accept that and be able to adapt quickly and pivot when they let you down. For example, if you set up a date with someone, they don't show up, do something else that night that's social. Don't just go home empty-handed and morose. Go meet some other people. Like, always adapt to other people letting you down or being difficult if you want to survive socially. And I also want to praise Aaron for going deeper with current connections. There's an old saying, there's diamonds in your backyard. A lot of people view socializing as meeting new people. That's the kind of concept they have in their mind a lot. And they consider or overlook their current connections as kind of being done and dusted, finished, that's already established. But you can always go deeper. And for those of you who have the kind of goal where you'd rather have like 5 to 10 amazing connections than 100 like superficial connections, then your focus should always be doubling down on the good ones. Right? You don't need to go make new ones. If you've got 3 people who you connect with well, you don't go meeting new people. You spend twice as much time with those 3 and be twice as honest with those 3. Say things to them that you've never said before, like really dig. because that's the kind of secret hack, you might say, to socializing. So you just don't need that many people to have a abundant feeling social life. I mean, how much time you got anyway, right? You're only going to be seeing a few people a week if you're doing all your other shit. So it's better to spend multiple sessions with a great person who you just keep getting deeper and deeper with, and the loyalty builds and the shared experiences stack up. It's going to be far more rewarding than going out and meeting 50 new people every weekend. So meeting new people is actually a very small part of this. However, it's a valuable skill to have because people come and go in your life, situations change. You might end up going really deeper with someone and finding out you don't like them. So now it's time to go meet someone new. So it is a valuable skill set, but only until you've got a few people to connect deeply with. And then, once you've gone wide like that, then you go deep. Yeah. I guess that's more opinion than fact. But if, like I said, if the goal is to have deep connections, then you've got to ask, is my behavior creating deeper connections? So I want to praise those guys because in my experience, especially working one-to-one with coaching clients, like those 3 patterns of behavior there are vital. That's the gold right there. All right, just want to remind everybody, how do I do the sharing shit? Let me just check this out. Share. Okay. So remind us that this is the Brojo page. If you guys want to get up to date with the 30-day challenge, you want to go back and see if there's any challenges you haven't done. You got until the end of the month to catch up on everything, or you just want to see how the progress is going. The main Brojo page, because it just prioritizes when people comment on posts and stuff. But if you go up here, I don't know how it looks on the phone, but there's these different topics, right? And if you go to more, you should find the 30-day challenge. Right? So if you just click that, then it will only put the 30-day challenge posts on your feed there. You can see they're numbered. So you can go back and have a look at which ones you haven't done. There's a few that you can repeat over and over and get, you can score points every time you do it. If you're unsure of where you're at with this, I'm tracking everybody on a big, very annoying spreadsheet. You can message me and I will let you know like which challenges you haven't done, which ones you could do more than once if you wanted to. And if I actually know a bit about you, I can even recommend which challenges would be best for you, what order to do them in. I'm here to support you guys. So you just hit the little comments thing up here and send me a message and I'll help you get up to date. All right. Plenty of time left. In the last week, you could make some massive gains if you wanted to prioritize this. So get in touch if you want to know how to do that. Cool. I'll just, what am I doing now? There we go. Stop sharing. Now, I want to talk about the biggest barrier that I'm seeing at the moment. It looks like an organizational barrier, but it's actually a fear one, and that is prioritizing. So what I've noticed in the challenge is that there's a kind of 80-20 split, or more like 95-5. So most people in the group aren't doing the challenge at all, which is to be expected. Some people are not even looking at anything in the group. They're just numbers on the screen. Others are kind of lurking, watching from the outside, observing, or maybe quietly pottering around doing some stuff on their own. And then a few of you are going hard out. And that's to be expected, that distribution. And the thing is, though, I know for a fact that a lot of you, whether you're participating or not, a lot of you consider deep connections with people to be one of the highest priorities in your life. A lot of you have told me that directly. A lot of you, when you think about what life's all about, what's the point, what's the meaning and the purpose, you'll come to the conclusion that great connections with other people is at least in your top 3. And what I see people do all the time is, on one hand, they will claim that socializing is a really high priority for them and the connections and relationship are a really high priority for them. But then you look at their fucking calendar and there's almost nothing in that space happening. And they're not actually dedicating time of their day towards this supposedly super important thing. When you look at what they are spending time on, you're like, really? That's the hill you want to die on? You want to watch TikTok? That's your big thing? Right? So a lot of people say, like, especially with a challenge like this, I've had a few people sort of privately tell me, like, I don't have time for this. It's I can't fit it into my day. And all I'd ask is, well, what are you fitting into your day? What is more important than this to you? Now, if there are things you feel genuinely like, you know what, building my career is what matters most to me right now, or I already have great connections, I don't need to add more to that, or I'm all about physical health at the moment, so I'm going to put aside connecting with people. Then that's fine. If you made a conscious decision around a different priority, that's fine. But one of the reasons I chose this to be the first challenge we do is because not only in my interactions with people, but in scientific studies, it's very clear that like the shortest pathway to a meaningful life is great connections with people. That if most people sit down and think, what would I regret when I'm older? It's going to be something along the lines of not socializing. Okay, it's going to be not spending time, not speaking honestly, not deeply connecting, not enjoying the connections I have, not spending time with my kids. Like these are the things that come up when people are elderly. That's why I put this challenge first. So whether or not you do this particular challenge isn't relevant. You could have another way that you want to focus on connecting with people. There's nothing to do with Brojo, and that's fine. But I'd really put it out there. Why isn't this being prioritized for you? Make sure you know the answer to that. I'd say the same as somebody who's not prioritizing eating healthy. Why not? What's more important, really? Right? Because what you'll find is that this is not some problem with your scheduling. Okay, this isn't like you struggle to like organize your time. You find time for everything else, right? It's fear kicking this down the road. Because all of our biggest shames and phobias are generally socially related, aren't they? We have some things we're scared of that have nothing to do with other people, but not many. Most of our fears have something to do with other people. Rejection, abandonment, being judged. And that's the real reason you're not prioritizing this. It's not that you don't care about it or that it's not important to you. It's not that you don't know how to fit shit into your calendar. It's not a technical issue. It's not you're not that disorganized. Your real problem is you're letting fear tell you just not today. Fear of rejection and all those things, fear of what other people think of you. That's what's really driving this. And one day you're going to wake up old and go, fuck, why did I let fear stop me doing this? And it'll be too late. I say it that harshly because that's the stone cold facts of it. You go look into what people regret when they're elderly. Go have a look. You don't even need to trust me. Tell me what you find. Tell me what always comes up in the top one or two things that people regret. And they're just like you. They kicked it down the road every day. Now, that's not to say that your fears are irrelevant and that you should just go and do this and not even be afraid. Of course, you're going to be afraid. But at least be honest with yourself about why you're avoiding doing this and ask yourself, well, how do I not be afraid? How do I build the courage? Because I'll tell you my biggest secret, it's not even a secret because I tell everyone all the time, but the most helpful thing I ever did when it came to socializing is make developing social courage the point. It's not trying to get the person, not trying to be popular or be liked, not even really to develop skills, but to get over my fear. I became obsessed with getting over my fear. And once I became obsessed with that, everything else fell into place. Once that became the real outcome that I was aiming at, and not like people liking me and all these other outcomes that fuck you up and make you not want to do this, when I was like, I hope this goes wrong because I need to get over it going wrong. I hope people judge me. I hope they reject me. I hope I get embarrassed. I want to get so embarrassed so often that I can't even feel embarrassment anymore. And I'm quite literally at that point now. Like, I have my faults and fears and flaws, for sure. But I cannot remember the last time I felt embarrassed. And I do some pretty bold social things. I just kept doing it until it went away, right? And I was so obsessed with that it just happened to build a social circle doing it. Just happened to be that that's a really helpful thing to do if you want to build a social circle. You say all the things you're scared of saying. You talk to the people you're scared of. You go to the events that you're nervous about. So, if you don't want to prioritize connections, fine. Just make sure you're truthful with yourself about the result that will come of that. Because if you're not doing it this week, you're not going to do it next week either. If you're not doing it next week, you won't do it next month, right? So keep that in mind. However, there are times in your life where you got to put your head down on something else because an urgent thing has come up. That's fine. But is that what's really happening right now? Be truthful with yourself. All right. One thing that's starting to emerge, which I'll cover in the final call at the end of the month, which beautifully lands on a Friday. I totally didn't plan for that. Is that we're seeing a formula. Now, I didn't actually intend on this when I was designing the 30-day challenge. I've actually been winging it. I've only been like a couple of days ahead of you guys with designing the challenges and shit. But basically, the formula is emerging is imagine you were taken out of your comfort zone with no contacts and dropped in a new city where you don't know anyone. This 30-day challenge is actually quite loosely matching exactly the step-by-step blueprint you'd need to follow to go from 0 to socially abundant in that situation. All right, so those tasks, I guess it just intuitively occurred to me to put those tasks in there, and in the sort of escalating difficulty order, that's also the sort of start to finish chronological series of tasks. You do those ones first, the ones at the early start of the challenge you do first, and then you build up to the ones that we're getting up to later. Some exceptions, but there's a formula starting to emerge that I'll go into detail in the last call, which is, sort of saying hi to people who are nearby, like making contact with anybody who you come into contact with, just to go from 0 to 1 with people. Making sure you're having non-transactional conversations. So when you dropped into a new city, you've got your local cafe, you start going there every morning, you have a little bit of a chat with the guy who serves you coffee instead of just doing the basics. That's a part of it. That builds things up. Joining local events, finding groups to join. That's one of the ones that came up over the last week. That's a huge one. I mean, that's probably the most highest leverage thing you could do, I'd say. Of all, like if somebody was only going to do one thing, I'd say that. Go join groups and hobbies and activities you're interested in that have other people. I can't think of something that's more beneficial socially if you're just to do one action. And then, of course, once you're there, introducing yourself to people, breaking that connection, initiating that connection, having statement-based conversations so the connection gets deep. It's not just an interview, and then inviting them out to something else outside the group where you met them. Like, that's the basic formula. If you were to just put your head down and just do that hard out, basically within probably 6 months, you'd have a full friend circle in a new city. Maybe even sooner, depends on your luck and who you meet. So that's what's happening here, and that's why the whole point of this 30-day challenge is to give you that formula that you can go and apply later. It's not like in 30 days you're going to suddenly have a great friend circle, though you could if you went fucking hard out with what we put in here and repeated it, like, quit your job and made this your whole life. Yeah, maybe then. But actually it's designed to give you a formula that you can follow, repeat certain steps over and over and find out what works for you. Cool. This last week coming up, there's some chances to score big points. I think only a few of you, maybe even none of you, will do some of the challenges coming up this week because they're whoppers. Okay? They're going to be the ones where I don't care who you are, you will be scared doing them. They're not necessary. Like if you just did all the challenges we've had up to date so far, that's enough to build a social circle. What we've got coming up this week is more like masterclass stuff that would give you all the options socially. You wouldn't have any limits left. Anybody in the world would now be available to you. You get a sense where we might be going if you think about it. We're talking about complete social confidence where there is no situation that you shy away from. I'm going to give you some examples this week of activities that would take you there. And I'm starting to think I might offer some sort of workshop at the end of this challenge for people who want to sort of knuckle down and consolidate all of these ideas and come up with their own personal plan. I'll put some thought into that and see how you guys feel about it. Okay. And the action, the challenge for today is to boldly get yourself rejected. Okay. I want you to film yourself doing it. I don't mean film the other person, but like we've had in the other challenges, just have the phone sort of open and facing you. if nothing else, so we can hear it happen. But don't film other people without their consent, unless you want to. You can film them and then ask for their consent later if you want to go hard out. It's not necessary. But I want you to boldly get rejected asking for something ridiculous. Okay, something that person can't say yes to. All right, maybe you go into a shop, order a coffee, and just say, "Can I have this for free?" Right? Or just walk up to someone sitting at a bus stop and say, "Would you like to come be my friend and hang out with me all day?" Anything that somebody's just really going to say no to, at least in your mind, you think they will. Okay. And get creative. There's a great TED talk called 100 Days of Rejection, I think, or 100 Rejections, something 100 Rejections. Jia Zhang, I think, is the guy who does it. I have it in my rejections course. But he's got some great ideas of things you can get rejected for. One of his is he was on a plane and he asked if he could deliver the safety briefing instead of the steward, and they actually said yes and they let him do it, which is fucking mind blowing. And he would ask for all sorts of crazy things from shops and stuff like that, and he got a lot of yeses, but he was very sure they were going to say no. And by the end of that, he wasn't afraid of a no anymore. So that's the point of this activity: is can you do something you're going to be rejected for? There's no hope. That it feels like you're just walking off the edge of a cliff. Because if you can overcome that fear, then the world really opens up to you. Because sometimes it's a yes, but you've missed out on 100,000 yeses in your life because you weren't willing to risk the no. So that's why we're putting this one in here. This is, like I said, this is advanced stuff. So you get 40 points if you pull off that one, because you've earned it. But I think the reward will be in doing it. Really, I once I got into this, I actually loved it, and I actually made it a point to go and do this as often as possible. It became fun. It's funny. The more ridiculous the request, the funnier it is. What was one activity? I never did this. I wanted to. Is you go start talking to somebody on the street, and then when the conversation's going, you pull out a big handful of change out of your pocket and like accidentally drop it, and try to keep talking to them while you pick up the coins. I love shit like that. Just stuff that's ridiculous. That's, the kind of thing that you would go home and like lie awake regretting for the rest of your life if it happened by accident. Make it happen on purpose. Take control of the rejection rather than hoping it doesn't happen. Go seek it out, and you'll see that it's nothing to be afraid of. Cool. And that's us. Pratik, you're the only one on the call, mate. Is there anything you want to talk about? Any questions, thoughts, anything like that?
I don't even know if my mic is working, but
Yeah, you're good.
yeah, I don't really have any questions. Just happy to be here live.
Yeah. This must be late for you, huh?
Oh wait, no,
Cool.
there was actually one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So is this to the end of the month, the challenge, or is it to the 30th?
The 31st, I think it is. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so I will accept Halloween plans then.
Yeah. Definitely. Cool. All right. Keep going, guys. Like I said, get in touch if you're hitting any barriers, if you need any troubleshooting. I'm here to help. And yeah, got a couple of fun ones coming up this week, and then we're done. Till next time. Cheers, mate.